Alright, let's get this started. Yeah. This is kind of unfortunate. Part of it is like the way we're pathing. You can't really easily get support here, right? So if you just look, right, your Zen can't orb you when you push out here, so pushing through this window is really dangerous, even if they're directly under you for a bit, right? I understand why you made this play, and in theory it's good, right? But the problem is like you can't get support easily from here, so I'd prefer if like you drifted out and just took a long angle instead, right? And that way you can peek really safely. And just as long as you're jiggle peeking, right, this McCree's a hard time hitting you, and if you do get tagged, you have the Mega behind you, right? And then as the fight develops, and maybe your team pushes out this way, right, then you can get orb, right? Or if your team backs out, right, then you can start thinking about like pushing more aggressively with orb, right? But until you have like ability for backline to support you, you need to be really careful peeking this McCree. That's not you. There you go. There you are.
I need to get back in there. Is now active.
So I'd like you to be a little bit more careful with your sticky usage. Your sticky usage is oftentimes just like you use it on cooldown, which is honestly not that bad. Its cooldown's pretty low, it does a lot of damage. But like the stickies right here, it's just like kind of low percentage, right? And there's not a lot of great targets, no one's like really peeking, right? So you really want to wait, for example, right? Like you maybe swing out left right now, right as your Avery's going in. And then first of all, these stickies are easier, because potentially like they're not looking at you, or like he's booped them into your path if you're still holding this angle, right? Um, and So it's easier, and also just has more impact because more people are shooting at the same people. So more people on your team are shooting at that time, so it's more likely to result in kills, right? So it's okay to use stickies for poke when you know you're not going to be using it anytime soon, and like the way you've timed it is like pretty clean actually. You're going to come out here with stickies just in time, right? But the problem is like you're not doing anything in sync with what the rest of your team's doing, right? So like you come out first, like you throw stickies, right, and then you rotate, and they're going to come over here, and your team's going to be fighting, so they won't be looking at you, right? But the angle's not great, and your team is not actively like going in while this happens because Avery's already committed, right? So the timing on this is kind of rough on both your stickies, even if like conceptually this rollout is okay, right? Or this like pathing. Yeah, and like that stickies is just kind of like you're fishing, right? This is you can't fish anymore. Like we're in the fight, right? You gotta like wait for a good opportunity and then stickies, right? You can't just stickies on cooldown. Because like trust me, the good stickies will come, right? Like this guy has no idea, is no mobility, and you have a relatively flat angle, which makes the stickies a lot easier, right? Plus, she might get discorded. You're then charging a volley, right? Like this guy can basically explode if you land all your stickies, right? Um, so, but like you kind of like fish for a low percentage stickies on here, and now you don't have stickies when you actually want it, right? So kind of unfortunate. I do like this aggression though, especially when the McCree's dead. Like I wasn't okay with this when the McCree was alive because you kind of want to take longer angles and get harmony assistance, right? But you know if like McCree's dead, you can just be as dumb as you want, and they can't really punish it. Yeah, if you had stickies like for that moment, it would have been really good. I'm not a big fan of those stickies on that Rhine. Mostly because like it's not that bad. Like I'll take anything, right? As long as you're hitting your stickies, it's better than not hitting them, obviously. But like I would have looked for like maybe a more aggressive opportunity, where like you can just stickies like, that stickies wasn't that bad. Never mind. Not really gonna talk about that one that much. That was pretty good.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Focus with me.
Unfortunate. Alright, so if you're trying to bail here, that's fine. Not this way! Alright, so you're Echo, so you can just like, if you're in trouble, you can just go this way. And then you can fly out here, there's a Mega, right, you get back to your team, right? This is also a way you can push, instead of having to push the same way every time. This is more of a flank than an off angle, right? Because you can't get team support if you go up this way, right? But if your team is like coming in through main or something, right? If you time this right, like this is a pretty easy like flank, right? And you get on their backline. If their backline's holding high ground, right? And then you time this with a ball engage and you show up and land stickies, right? Like that's really good, right? But that's something more for like to consider when you're retaking. But like it's always an escape path when you're retreating, so just keep that in mind because this is not the way to get out. You're staying in the open for too long. This is a good angle, right? And then you see the McCree's looking at you, right? So what happens when this McCree walks around the corner that you just saw him look at you from, right? He's gonna walk around and you have nowhere to go, right? So before this happens, you need to like push, like you need to control the angle, right? So like right now you're controlling this angle, right, which is good, right? These two, this corner and this corner, right? But he's moving over here and he's changing the angle, right? So you need to control that angle as well. So you need to give up this current angle and slide more to your left, right? Or go vertical and start going over, right? With our harmony pocket, right? But you can't afford to just like stand here and expect nothing to happen because this angle is going to change in a second, right? And he's going to like get a big like a really good look at you, and like you can't allow that to happen against McCree. Yeah, and he almost gets you. And then he's dumb. We got a good kill, right? I would have preferred for you to end your fly on the high ground. I know you were trying to chase the McCree, but I think you had like a second or two left to get up there if you like really remembered it. There's something a lot of echoes don't do. It's kind of like playing Pharah, where like you want to start your jump jets from higher up so that we can spend more time higher up, right? If you start your fly from too low as echo, you just don't get as much height. Oh, whoops. Alright. Speaking of discipline, you gotta have trigger discipline on that, right? I know like you feel like there's somebody here, right? But just make sure you take the time to look for that guy, aim it, and then shoot the stickies, because like the stickies are too important to just like throw away like this. Also, generally speaking, like you want to get to a more aggressive angle, right? Again, like if the McCree's dead, there's no punish, right? So that means you can sit up here very easily, right? So after you use your beam, right, instead of like backing up like this and just shooting like at ground level, right, just fly up, get above them, right, and start landing your stickies, right? Like make it easy on yourself, right? But you haven't used your fly at all, and now he's back, and now he's limiting your ability to fly. And you're in the middle of them, the chance is going to end, you're probably going to get focused by the Zarya, and then you're going to have to fly, and you're going to get picked off by the McCree, probably. Or you're going to copy. Copy's okay here, but... Nah, you just die.
Score 1-0. Ready for battle. Keep to the plan, but be ready. 2-1.
Barrier in place.
Lifting off.
Make sure before you make this play, by the way, that you have harmony. I don't know if you actually do. You don't. Okay. Make sure, before you make this play, that you have harmony, because if there is a McCree like flying out here, you're toast, right? So you want to have all the pocket beforehand before you make this play, instead of trying to like, because if Zen's trying to heal you after you're getting shot by the McCree, it's probably too late, right? So you want to get the orb before you get like peaked. That way, if the McCree is there, you're getting healing the entire time he's shooting you, and he probably runs out of ammo before he actually kills you, unless he hits headshots. Also, this angle is too similar to the rest of your team, right? So I prefer if like you swung out over here, right? You get this angle where you can control the angle better, right? Like you have a corner where you can control how much the McCree can see you. You can get Harmony Orb relatively easily, and you can spam people who are playing on the defensive side of the map, right? So because like if like their backline generally doesn't want to play close to you, right? Like to you and your dive heroes and stuff like that, so he'll play more towards the back, right? And this gives you angles onto him if you swing out over here, and like this also gives you angles, right? But it's like more or less the same angle as your team, right? So you want to like take this, right? And so for example, if he was hiding here to not get shot by your team, you could shoot him on the side, right? Just as an example. But I'd prefer if like you were either playing over here, out here, right? Or out here. Just like somewhere more like, not necessarily aggressive, but different from the rest of your team, right? That's the most important thing. Yeah, so this is good. I just want you to make this move earlier. And also be really careful. Again, control the angle, right? So if you look, you could shoot this guy the entire way from here to here, right? From right here, right? You don't have to move, right? The thing is, you swing out way over here, and if this McCree was looking at you, he could shoot you, and you have no cover, right? I mean, you do have cover if you like drop back down, but then like, again, like, there's no reason to expose yourself in the first place when you can just shoot him from here, especially when you don't have pocket, right? If you don't have pocket, you don't want to be out here, right? And then later on, you can transition like from low ground, right? You can ask for pocket as you're peeking over here, right? And then you can fly up over here and play this angle instead, right? But you want to go from angle to angle and don't just like play open space, right? This is how you die on Pharah. This is how you die on Echo, right? And you just need to make sure that you're hugging walls, right? Walls are your best friend. So I'm not sure I like this rotation. Yeah, I mean it's okay, right? This rotation like gives you a pretty good angle. I just think that this angle is also fine. So if you wanted to hold it, right, you can just sit here and shoot, right? And you can have easy access to Harmony or whatever, whatnot, right? But there's just not I don't feel like there's a need to rotate over here. But that said, this angle is fine, right? This angle is fine. It's just that this one was also fine, right? So yeah, now you're like peeking way out, right? So if you get shot, right, what's your immediate reaction if you get shot here? Like it's kind of hard to back into this room now, right? So you like left your cover, right, which is like the doorways plus the mini. So now if you get shot, you're going to have to fly up and hope you can get above them before you die, right? Like you can LOS from above and get pocket. So this is again why I prefer you play this angle, because if you want to get vertical, right, you have this cover, right, or this cover, right. But over here, like if you like your angle is stuck inside here and you're just shooting straight in, right. So this is kind of like Ash positioning. Like this is a pretty good Ash position. On this side of the doorway, not outside, right. But I think because you're thinking like I'm gonna die, right, you want to play like a bit closer, so you start walking out. But like if you want to play closer, right, you didn't need to go this way to begin with, you know. Again, be careful with the stickies, right? If you just like landed them in the doorway, it would hit all of them, right? But like you're just not taking the time to like aim your stickies before you throw them, right? You're just kind of like they're explosives, right? They'll hit something, but like they kind of they have a pretty small AOE, right? So like just take the time, baby your stickies a bit. They do like a lot of damage. You want to make sure they hit. This is what I mean, right? So like this McCree wasn't even shooting at you. Like he's got a lot of other stuff to worry about, right? But like because you walked out the door, when you realized the McCree could shoot you, you flew straight up, and if you look, you still have no cover, right? Overall, they're pretty good. You got some good angles to poke. You didn't die. Not sure what you're doing now. Okay. Oh, you're asking for Harmony. I remember this. So this is why I prefer if you used your fly earlier, because you could end your fly here, right? And you would be able to like start your poke from a little bit higher up, and then you'd be able to fly from a little bit higher up, right? When they start trying to come in, right? This fly is extremely dangerous because it puts you relatively close to the enemy team, right? And they could just potentially hunt you down. And it puts you without a fly to escape, right? Because a fly is also your escape. So you're close to them. You're not very high up in the air, and you have no cooldown to escape. Right? So this is extremely dangerous. Be careful with this, right? If you want to poke early on, you fly up here early on. You sit on this like wall right here, or like where like Owen is sitting, right? And you just spam from there until they start rotating, right? But you don't want to rotate over here with your cooldown late into the poke phase, right? Or like potentially things can go bad. You got enough to get like vertical, so that was good. So you could land on this if you need to, and I'd like to see you land on this because again, you start your fly from higher up, you go higher up, and you stay higher up, right? It makes it harder for you to punish, to be punished. But you're gonna land here, and you have no fly cooldown, and it's kind of risky. Okay, this is risky as well. This angle, right, is pretty sketch. Their McCree's not back yet. I don't know why he took so long in spawn. Maybe someone killed him again. But like again, like where is your cover, right? Where can you hide, right? Nowhere, right? There's no options. So be really careful with this, right? If you want to like play vertical angle, you can play this one, right? Where you have this wall, right? Or you can play all the way back here, right? Using this wall or this wall, right? And you still have an angle, and you can rotate as needed, right? But be careful playing right here because even though like you can shoot them, if you're not directly above them, the LOS isn't that great, and if like your team isn't ready to fight here anyways, so you don't want to play directly above them, right? That's kind of like forward positioning when your whole team's like pushed up right here anyways. But you're playing Echo, your team's playing back, right? So you want to play somewhere more defensive, here, here, or here, where you have like vertical cover that you can use. And again, see how like because like your fly ends when you're not very high because you start from low. You end the cooldown with like 2 to 3 seconds. You end up back on the ground with 2 to 3 seconds left on fly. Yeah, and you just die. This is but do you see how this is a direct result of playing here initially? You burned your fly for poke, right? You had no cover that you could reliably land on, right? And as a result, you landed in the middle of the open, right? Like, I think it was around here. And then this McCree 2 taps you, right? Or maybe it was 3 tap. I don't remember. But like the point is like you're not playing around cover, despite the fact your hero is like pokey-ish, I guess. Yeah, cover's important. Even if like you have like the aerial mobility, right? Even though they can do all that good stuff, right? Cover's still really important.
Taking off. Ultimate reaching maximum charge.
backing. This is fine. Now see, if you're relatively close to them on the ground and you have fly, right, it's a little bit safer, right? But if you don't have fly, like when you were poking earlier, right, it can be sketch. You should just grab the mega there. Yeah. Alright, so ooh, this is sketch. Okay, so this would have been better if your ball was still like rolling through, right? So if your ball is making a play here, and you take that time to like fly up over here and play a safe angle, right? That would have been really good, right? Because you're using the tension that your ball is pulling to safely like take an angle, right? And that's like the whole point of ball, right? Is to allow you to do this, right? But now you're doing this after your ball came through, and now that McCree is relatively easy time just like transferring focus because the ball's no longer like relevant to him, right? And you need to like hard book in this direction or else you're just straight dead. Okay, I know you're going for copy, right? So that makes this play a little bit better in terms of like your positioning and not trying to run this way. I would have liked it if you went this way because again, like Echo is still a really good hero. You don't have to force ult value, and you kind of want to use your ult when you're actually in trouble to secure you like duels, or like to give you a second life that you can play really aggressive on, right? But this is problematic for a number of reasons. One, like you're not like really like you getting control of the map for your team before you ult, because like once you have control of the map, this ult like just wins the fight by itself, right? Like once you're here and your trace is here, and then your team is like pushed back and they're still on choke, and then you fly out from here and then you copy the ride behind them, right? This fight's over, right? As your ball's rolling in and your backline's walking in. But the problem is your team, if you look, doesn't actually have a lot of map control. Like we have nothing. Like the sightlines are terrible, right? And your ball just rolled back into your team, right? So like we have no map control other than the map control you've gotten on this side of the map, right? And so if you just hold this, things will work out better. And then the second thing is because you're ulting, your team's forced to go in. But if you look, right, like you're just way ahead of the rest of your team. And I know this can be easy not to like forget about when you're like thinking about I'm gonna fly up and ulti, right? But you want to make sure A, you have map control, and B, that your team can do stuff, right? Your team can't do anything right now. Like, what are they supposed to do? Like this feels kind of miserable, right? Like I guess you're Zen shooting. That's kind of it, right? So like realistically, what's gonna happen is that you're gonna just hold like hard shield, and then when you need to catch these guys, they're gonna be like walking away, like when your team eventually pushes up. So either you're gonna instantly melt and lose your copy, right? Or they're just gonna run away from you, and you'll never be able to catch them outside of like charging and then losing your copy anyways, right? Yeah, so you just get melted, right? Because again, what is your team doing? Like Tracer kind of went in. Your ball is starting to go in now, right? Your Zen fired some shots, and your Brig Sig are lagging behind the play, right? And that's because your play is just a little too fast, right? Like just chill out over here, wait for a second, right? And then go in, right? And you do it from behind them, even better, right? So they have to like split their attention multiple ways. So there'll be a ball rolling in from over here, a Tracer coming in from this side, your team's pushing from the front, and then you're hitting them with the Reinhardt from behind, right? Like then it's even better, right? And you can do that after you throw in your stickies, right? Et cetera, et cetera. Wow, you actually lived. Oh no, you're probably gonna die now. Oh, living. Again, careful with this angle, right? You can do the same thing from here, right? You can do the exact same thing from here, but you can't be get shot by the McCree from here, right? If you want to shoot the McCree, you can jiggle peek him. It's a little sketch, but I just want to emphasize: don't play open space because open space is not good against the hit scan, right? Play cover, right? When the hit scan's dead, then you can play open space, right? But until then, you can't.
Learning from that one. Hello.
Big damage. You're already halfway to another ult. Ooh. Hello, McCree. Alright, also, again, you don't have to swing out like in front of them like this. You can actually go around, right? As we talked about, use the aerospace, where you can just fly out over here. And this rotation is much harder to punish if there's not someone waiting right here, right? And you know where the McCree is, so this should be pretty free. Yeah, and then again, if you take this spot on the map, you start getting map control, right? Like in the bridge example we talked about on Gardens, right? If you're sitting on this part of the map and you see these people like trying to make a play on you guys, they can no longer make a play on you guys because your team is going to walk in and while you shoot them, right? And eventually they have to leave, right? And so just by making this play, you've gotten like this part of the map, like this entire hallway for your team for free, right? Just by making this play, right? And this is why this is stuff that like you can actually practice in rank because it actually matters in rank, right? Like just the ability to take angles that you recognize are free, that will give you a lot of value, right? And I know like ranked sucks, trust me, I know. But this is one of the things that like you can practice in ranked because it's always relevant. And so like notice when you push with the entire team, and the enemy team is right on top of you guys. And this happens because your team is not efficiently taking angles, and a big part of this is you, because like again you have a lot of ability to just like fly out here and pressure the angle by yourself, and there's very little other people can do about it, right? And not saying it's all of you, right? Like the team really didn't need to walk in like this, but the problem is the whole team's walking in like this, and you're right there with them instead of clearing the angle, right? Or taking another angle at least, right? Not this is kind of your only other angle realistically. I mean this angle kind of exists, but it's hard, right? Because like you can get pushed. But it does technically exist. But you're kind of walking in with your team without preemptively clearing the angle for your team, right? And so this is what, again, what I'm talking about, like clearing angles before you move your backline in, because otherwise they just die, right? Like if you just look, they're gonna die. Maybe not, because no, we're dead.
Boosting up.
Yeah, and like again, so like as we talked about earlier, your death on this point earlier happened because you were playing open space, airspace, open airspace over here, as opposed to playing like behind cover, right? It is like direct result, even though you died over here. And this death of the whole team right here is a direct result of like you not taking this angle over here and applying pressure, right? So you just got to think like in terms of like angles, right? And I know this is very hard to think about in game, right? Which is why like like after you play like a round of ranked or something, right? Just take a second to like reflect on like angles, right? Like what angles could you have taken, right? And this one's the one that immediately jumps on this map because it's so powerful, right? And they also never put anyone here, right? So like abuse like again just like scout, like if you're not sure if it's free, right? You just walk over here, right? You poke your nose out. You don't see anyone, you fly up for a second, right? You don't see anyone, right? Then you drift, and now you're there, right? And now you have the angle, right? And so like, but this kind of angle play is like kind of the core of this entire composition, right? Whether you're playing Echo, whether you're playing Ash, whether you're playing Tracer, right? It might be dead in a couple days, we'll see. But most comps, still, especially in mirrors, which happen a lot in any meta, right? It always comes down to angles at the end of the day. So the longer you can hold an off angle, and the more powerful of an off angle you can take, right, the more you just win games, just naturally. So I'd really recommend just like spending some time thinking about this, because like it makes a big difference, right? Because like you may not have thought too much about these angles, right? But like once you figure out this angle is really strong against people playing here, right? Like you can just abuse this every single time, right? And like this applies to a lot of maps. So in Gardens we talked about like if you just cross the gap, you can just shoot the people on the bridge and you win, right? Not win, but you gain the space for free, right? So there's a lot of spots like that in a lot of maps, so you just need to try and find them, right? I think that's probably the gist of it, unless you want to talk about another hero. Do you play another hero? No, you play Echo the whole time. Okay. Okay. So I'll just end it here, because I think that seems like a reasonable place to stop. But yeah. So to summarize, the most important things for you are just on Echo is like playing more carefully around airspace cover, right? Especially against hit scans. Not every team will run a hit scan, right? But when they do, you need to play against, like, you need to play cover, right? It needs to be habit. Second is be more careful with your stickies. Right? Your stickies, you can spam them in cooldown during poke phase, but once you start exiting poke phase, you need to be ready to like use them like when they're going to hit, right? And some that's mechanical, right? The better you are at hitting stickies, the more like the more crazy you can get with them, right? But if you're not confident you'll hit the stickies, right? Go into ranked and just like practice it, right? Or just do aim training if you want, but like ranked is like the most. I mean, you can even do it in quick play, honestly. Like just any kind of low stakes environment where you don't really care about the results so much, but you're focusing mostly on hitting stickies, right? And then the final thing is you need to like worry about taking angles, right? Just really focus on angle play, and taking positions that are like they're separate from your team, and also provide a potentially create a lot of space, right? Just apply a lot of pressure, right? Because if you think about it, if you sit here and all you can shoot is like a Rhine shield, maybe it kind of sucks, right? So, but if you're over here, you can shoot a lot of things, right? And if you're over here, you can shoot even more things. You're just more separated from your team. So the greedier your off angle, the more separated you are from your team, and the less help you get, probably, right? But that said, there's a lot of like not that greedy angles, right? Like right here, where it's very easy to get harmony support from over there, right? Where you can shoot people really freely, right? And then you just fly up, you shoot them, you can shoot everybody, right? And eventually they have to give this hallway because they have no way to contest you, realistically, right? And then they have to back out, right? But just by like flying to the spot, you take the spot for your team. I'm harping on this a little, probably way too much, but like I'm just emphasizing that there's a lot of angles like this in the game. You just need to look for them. So yeah, I'll end it here. I'm going way too ham on this. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, just let me know. And if you get to this part of the video, DM me what 4 plus 3 equals.